Welcome to the Cult of Hockey podcast by the faithful and for the faithful. I'm Bruce McCurdy, and I'm here today with my Cult of Hockey colleague, Kurt Levins. Hello, Kurt.
Hello, Bruce. How are you this evening?
I hope I'm sounding better than I did at the last podcast. I had an issue with my microphone, and I don't know what the heck happened, but I sounded like somebody said I sounded like I was dialing it in from a submarine. And they're not too far wrong. I do apologize. That was it's on my checklist, but I'm working with a new checklist because I'm playing host for these couple of games while David's away in Calgary, and we get to play around with different roles. And so today we get to talk about a disappointing yet somewhat fruitful 5-4 overtime loss by the Edmonton Oilers to Dallas Stars, in which the Oilers had a 4-2 lead through 40 minutes and couldn't hold it, and then couldn't get the job done in overtime. But nonetheless, by the NHL's cockamamie point system, they're still rewarded with a point for blowing a lead and losing. So that's how it works these days in Gary Bettman's NHL.
So they should have declined the second I thought they should have declined the second intermission, Bruce.
Yeah.
You know, I thought they really had Dallas on their heels in that second period, and they never did regain that mojo in the third, to my eye.
Right. Well, that's going to play right into my good and bad things, but I'm going to start by asking you as to what you saw as your good thing in today's game.
Well, my good thing would have been Jujhar Khaira, and this is a player who I think quite rightly has come in for some criticism this year. I mean, we've been waiting for the real JJ to show up, and I think this is the good version of JJ, and he can show up anytime he likes. Had 2 goals tonight. The first one was kind of a hard-working drive to the net, and good luck will follow you goal. The second one was actually just a lovely goal scorer's goal. Goal scorer's goal, I'd almost call it, as he was feinting one way and shot against the grain the other way, top left-hand corner. Just lovely goal. His second and third on the season, on what is a very impressive line for Jujhar tonight. I mean, he had 5 shots in net, including those 2. He played very physical, had 4 hits on the night, had a takeaway as well. Played in all 3 disciplines. On one power play, he was the net front presence, so got a bit of power play time. And another clean sheet on the PK for Jujhar tonight as well. The Stars didn't score in the 151 that he played on the PK. And 1638 overall, because Dave Tippett went to the 3-line model very early in the third period, and the Sheahan Khaira Russell line was one of the 3 lines that Dave picked. So I think Jujhar Khaira, absolutely his best game of the year, and I'd follow that up with more, please.
Yeah. Well, you talk about the power play where he was the net front presence. Well, he actually did contribute to that power play goal that was ultimately scored by Ethan Bear, but it was Khaira who, first of all, won a race to the puck on the sideboards and fed it back to the point to begin the next cycle. And then he was in the mix in front of the net, creating the option that McDavid passed through the option to Bear on the far side, but the one defenseman was left covering 2 guys, and J.J. Khaira was one of them, and Bear wound up being wide open. And so he did the net front job, the puck retrieval net front job beautifully on that sequence. And that was the first goal all year for the second unit, if you want to consider a unit that includes Ethan Bear, Darnell Nurse, Jujhar Khaira, and Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl as the second unit. But really, that was their, they had the 2 big guys out there, and they'd actually switched off 3 of the other players, and they managed to manufacture one late in the power play.
And, Jujhar, I mean, that's the thing about him, isn't it, Bruce? I mean, he has really good size and strength, and when he plays on the right side of the man, he's very effective, and he's an above-average NHL skater. Particularly straight ahead speed. And so if he keeps his feet moving and gets involved, he can be a really effective player. And he has just enough skill to be dangerous. And when he got the 2 opportunities tonight, he made the most of them.
Yeah, well, he can play with skill, and He showed it in two earlier games this year with Ryan Nugent-Hopkins when he played with Nuge and Neal, I think it was,
Yes.
on the forward line. And I thought those were his two best games of the year before today, which clearly was his best by far. And then today, it was like he had a line change. It was at the end of a power play. Draisaitl came off, Khaira came on, but McDavid stayed out, and it was McDavid that dropped the puck to Khaira in shooting position. He's got a wicked shot, and every once in a while he can hit the target, as he did there, and drove Ben Bishop to the bench. But that was a great shot. And Khaira or McDavid got him the puck in shooting position, which you could play for a month with Riley Sheahan and maybe not get a chance like that. That took about 10 seconds with McDavid, and there's JJ Khaira with the clear shot on net from the slot, and what do you know? It goes in the net.
Fair enough.
So he was strong really in all aspects of the game, and I'm sort of between an 8 plus for Khaira today. I may even push it because it's really hard to criticize any aspect of his game, frankly.
Yeah, he was super strong. I wouldn't argue with that either.
So my good thing was the second period. In particular, the first period was all right, and it was especially good that they bounced back with the goal, Khaira's first goal, 11 seconds after Dallas took the opening lead. But really, it was the second period where the Oilers took command of this game. They did knock Ben Bishop out of the net. They scored twice. They outshot Dallas 19-10, and it looked like they had the Stars completely on their heels. And at the end of a long road trip, and you're thinking, well, this third period. What more could you ask for than a 2-goal lead going into the third period against an opponent playing their third game in 3.5 days? I mean, anyway, so we'll end my good thing there, and we'll get to actually, I'll go first this time. My bad thing.
Okay.
The third period.
Gee,
and it was
surprise.
like two different teams out there. The shots went from 19-10 Edmonton to 15-4 for Dallas. And the shot attempts were 27-8 for Dallas in the third period. And the Oilers, whatever they were doing to push the play and win battles, it seemed like they stopped doing a lot of those things. And they did a lot of sort of skating in sand in their own end of the ice without the puck. And long stretches where they couldn't win battles to get the darn thing out. Seemed like every defensive zone faceoff would result in a Dallas possession and more pressure, and just kind of silly things. Like there was one play where they finally got out of their own end, and Nugent-Hopkins got the puck in the center ice zone, and he froze. And then instead of shooting it in, he kind of got surrounded, and then he wound up firing a pass backwards to nobody. It went into Oilers territory. Koskinen comes out of the net to play the puck. He freezes with the puck on his stick, and they wind up almost getting a tap into the empty net out of it. Like it was just sort of went from this is under control finally to what the hell is going on out there? And there was just too much of that in the third. And even at 4-2, I was having the bad feeling. I'm thinking this lead does not feel safe. And from 4-3 on, it just, there was times, there was minute here, minute there where the Oilers sort of gained composure. But at no point did they really get it into lockdown mode.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And you know what? I think the Oilers, Bruce, are a quicker team than Dallas. Even with a couple of their regulars out of the lineup, I do think they're quicker overall from top to bottom. But I really felt like they sat back in the third period, and they gave Dallas the opportunity. That's a veteran team over there, Dallas. They're smart with the puck. You know what? They put the puck into good places. They go in and they grind away. And I thought that third period, I thought the Oilers played right into Dallas's hands. I thought the game slowed down. The game got heavier. I thought that favored Dallas, and I thought that was one of a number of things that tipped the balance.
Yeah, can't argue. What have you got for a bad thing from your observations, Kurt?
Well, my bad thing was I'm not one to typically criticize Dave Tippett because I think he is an excellent NHL coach. And I'm not an NHL coach. I just play one on the Cult of Hockey podcast. But
That's our job here.
Yeah, I really did wonder at some of his choices tonight. And here's a couple of the key examples. As I mentioned earlier, the first and only shift that the Haas unit got in the third period was around the 2-minute mark. And the three of them, him and Gagne and Granlund, didn't see the ice together again. And two of those three didn't see the ice again, period. And honestly, I thought on balance that line was okay. I thought for the most part they held their own. In the second period, they actually had a couple good chances. But hey, if you want to go to three lines, you want to go to three lines. But at that point, everybody else is playing extra shifts. So you're starting to pile up the ice time on your best 9 guys, and particularly your best 6 guys. And I thought that dovetailed into overtime, where I thought that the units that went out there in overtime, I thought the Oilers had the more tired and the more the unit that had more hard work on that night going out there in the third period. In the 3-on-3. So I would have rolled 4 lines a little bit longer. You got a 4-2 lead. I mean, at that point, I think attrition is not a bad plan. So I wasn't a fan of that. And then in the 3-on-3 overtime, I have to give full credit to the Dallas coach. I thought it was super smart. They started the Oilers started McDavid and Draisaitl as you would expect they would. But Dallas didn't start out with their 2 big guys. They started out with Dickinson and Pavelski. Dickinson's a good defensive player. Pavelski's a real good NHL player and a real smart veteran NHL player. And I thought that basically those guys played McDavid and Draisaitl to a draw in their first shift.
They had the puck the whole time. They won the draw. They won the draw, and they I think it was 50 seconds before Connor and Leon ever got a hold of the thing, and by then Dallas was in position to make the change.
Yeah, and it's basically what you want, right? Is you want to play the 3-on-3 overtime with those guys not having the puck, and then Dallas makes the change. So then at that point in the game, against most teams, I think Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, winded, are better than most players in the NHL. But in Dallas's case, now they come out with a fresh Tyler Seguin and a fresh Jamie Benn against, Connor and Leon, who'd been out there for 90 seconds already. And I didn't think they had anything left in the tank. And I thought it showed in the sequence that ended up in the winning goal. I'm not faulting those players. You want your best players out there in overtime, but I really thought it was smart on Dallas's part to go with those 2 pairs of forwards that they did. And I thought that tactic helped them win the game.
They had a huge energy advantage for those crucial 15 seconds or whatever it was. And
yep.
Yeah, McDavid tried to stick handle around Esa Lindell and failed, and then right away he got caught out of the play, and he just didn't have the wind to get back into it. It didn't look like.
And Esa Lindell's a good player. Hey, I like that.
Yeah. All right. Well, what have you got then out of this game for a number?
My number on the night is 3. Tonight, the Oilers, 3 of their 4 goals came from players that aren't in the top 6. So we got the 2 goals, the 2 aforementioned goals from Jujhar Khaira, and just a lovely power goal by Ethan Bear. I thought that goal was a fair little bit like his first ever NHL goal. Mm-hmm. You'll remember that time he bust in off the point and right to the goal mouth and scored that night. This one was similar, and you described it beautifully, Bruce. It was, JJ was right in front with a man on him, and I thought that Connor looked off that check nicely, found Ethan, and Ethan made no mistake. I mean, that was a defenseman goal scorer's goal. And I think any night when the Edmonton Oilers get 3 goals from someone whose names aren't McDavid and Draisaitl, Nugent Hopkins, and Neal, you're going to win. And so out of I guess if we're looking for silver lining, you already said the loser point, the Bettman point. We'll take that one. And I guess I'll add that we did see a breakout from Jujhar Khaira. We got a goal from Ethan Bear on the back end on a team that really does have to lean heavily on 97 and 29. They didn't have to tonight per se, and 4 goals in the NHL today, honestly, Bruce, should be enough to win.
Yeah, I believe this is the first point that the Oilers have given up on a game. They scored 4 goals this year. I think they've been undefeated to this point, and I mean, surely that's what you expect. 4 goals is going to win you most games, but and with a 4-2 lead in the third, you think it would be enough to win you this game, but turned out they needed to add to it, and they really didn't get a lot of pressure happening in the third period. That power play goal by Ethan Bear is the first power play goal by an Oilers defenseman all season.
That's right, and it is.
Bear has played on the power play for relatively few number of seconds compared to the main guys, and I think he's going to challenge for that number one spot. And that said, I've actually enjoyed Oscar Klefbom's play on the point these last couple of games. I think
Yep.
he's done well there, but he's going to have to fight off a challenge from Mr. Bear to keep that spot. I mean, what's not to
Well,
like? You see the advantage of the right-handed shot there on that
100%.
goal. You got to have
Yeah.
one somewhere on your power play, even if it's coming in off the point and slipping into the back door once in a while. He used to
Yep.
do that in Seattle there, and a guy named Matt Barzell would have a knack for passing, finding him on the back door, and he'd slam him home. And
And the other
anyway,
thing about Ethan Bear, of course, is he has the highest percentage of shots that actually get to the net,
hmm
proportional to shots taken of any defenseman on the team.
hmm
So tell me what's bad about that? A right hand
yeah,
shot on your power play, and you can get the puck to the net.
that's an interesting stat that I track sort of sporadically. You don't find it anywhere, but you can look it up and find out for yourself. And it's
Mm-hmm.
defensemen in particular, many of them have trouble hitting the net with more than maybe 40% of their shot attempts, if that. So my number is not a tribute to Ethan Bear, but it is 74.
Mm.
And 74 is the average shift length, 74 seconds for Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid in this game.
Mm.
They each played 22 shifts. They each played, 27-21 for McDavid, 27-20 for Draisaitl. And we talked about how their batteries would be recharged and so on after the last game. But those are long shifts. And, that's average. Like any average over a minute is, I mean, partly it's power play, but partly it's just they overstayed their welcome. And you know what? The winning goal in overtime, the shift was 1 minute 14 seconds, that
Yeah.
exact average length, and there they were sucking in wind at the end of the shift, and more energized opponents were putting the puck in the net and putting the game away.
Yeah, when you're
And
sucking wind against Ben and Seguin, that's
yeah,
not a good thing.
ooh, no, Ben and Sagan. We saw. I mean, people been complaining about their play for Dallas. I understand, but they looked like the old Oiler killers to me this afternoon.
I thought Tyler Seguin in particular was just terrific tonight.
Yeah. Right. So that's, I guess, the name of that tune. I don't know what they can do, Kurt. Maybe, I mean, do they just want to play these guys for minute plus shifts, or do they want to maybe throw them over the boards a little bit more often, maybe with a shorter break between shifts, and have them come off after 45 seconds, but go right back out there one shift later. There's got to be different ways of doing it. But in overtime, Dave Tippett did say in the post game that Dallas changed their guys. He said Connor and Leon were tired, and he said we changed our defense, but they decided to go up the ice with the puck, and they couldn't make a play. They were too tired to make a play, and then they were too tired to get back. And I'm going, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
live by the sword, die by the sword. I mean, they have won games on long shifts and overtime too. So, they've sometimes found that.
Absolutely. And do you want those guys out on 3-on-3 almost the whole time?
Yes.
Sure you do. But I mean, you've got Ryan Nugent Hopkins on the bench. That's a pretty good option.
Mm-hmm.
And so at some point, I think you really nailed it there, Bruce. At some point you have to understand that there are consequences sometimes for you taking that extra 15 seconds, and it might seem like a good idea at the time, but but again, 3-on-3 is a bit of a gamble one way or the other, and certainly the club would not have the record that it has had it not been for those two players. So far be it for me to criticize, but there certainly were sometimes where there's smoke, there's fire.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can't criticize, but you can observe the facts. And the facts that I observed is that on the last 4 Dallas goals today, the 5, that both 29 and 97 were on the ice, and they got beat like defensively. And sometimes it's like on the I think it was the 2-2 goal, where both of them were kind of back, but neither one of them really took the slot. And it's like you got 2 centers there, and they're kind of deferring to one another, and they're not quite sure who's doing what. And it only takes a split second in this league, as you know, and you pay the price.
I didn't think the Oilers' back pressure was as good tonight as we've seen it in other games. Absolutely not. Right. The other one thing I wanted to throw at you was, even though he lost tonight, I think we can surely agree that Mikko Koskinen had the save of the game.
Ooh, save of the season, just about.
I mean, the rebound, the first shot was tough enough, but then Nick Camano came in with that rebound. And I don't know if you saw the one angle, The one angle from
You could
behind the
see
net.
you could see the whole net.
The whole
And he slammed it in the far side, like away from the side crossing, and he got all the way over to get his glove out there.
Right. Yeah, that was a highlight reel save, man. It's when he made that stop, I thought, okay, this is maybe this one's going to go our way. But and I certainly don't fault Koskinen, and I didn't think he had a bad night at all necessarily. And Ben Bishop honestly made one spectacular save too on that wraparound that Connor McDavid brought around. I mean, unless Ben Bishop's 6'7" or 6'8", he doesn't stop that puck.
Well, we had 2 6'7" guys in there today, and they both were at full stretch for those highlight reel stops.
Yeah.
In that particular case, the Oilers scored seconds later anyway, so it didn't really help Ben Bishop. But that really was a full stretch. A 6'6" goalie probably wouldn't have got that one. It was that close. He just jammed his skate, kicked it into the post and out.
I know you're an old goalie, but he's an old defenseman. My groin just hurt watching that.
Yeah, right on. Well, the only other observation I'm going to throw out there was I enjoyed the effort of Josh Archibald, and I thought he really gave it on the second line right wing. And the unfortunate thing is, I enjoyed Josh Archibald. We're starting to see his game, I think, now after a pretty struggling start and he was ill, and I think he was hurt, and he just hasn't really clicked into place. But they give him a shot up the lineup here. And he was throwing his weight around. He took a run at that big Jamie Alexiak, to whom he gave up about a foot and 100 pounds, and
held his own, right?
Yeah, and he had another just tremendous effort play along the board where he won 2 or 3 battles in a row against Sekera, and then he battled 2 other guys, and then he hit somebody at the end. And you think that's a VO2 max kind of effort at the end of the shift that he was able to do that.
Yeah, so that shift against Sekera against the wall then in the corner, that was a spectacular shift. I mean, he led the Oilers with 6 hits. When does Josh Archibald lead your team with hits?
Well, he's got, I think he had 172 or something last year. Like, he does like to play the body, and he's an aggressive little fellow.
And he gets on you quick, doesn't he?
But his, when I say I enjoy watching him play, I also used to enjoy watching, Billy Carroll or Colin Fraser. I mean, guys that would, fundamentally be sound and not give up a lot. But I mean, you need to get a point once in a while, man.
Yeah.
That applies to all of those guys.
Yeah, and Archibald had 12, didn't he, last year?
12 goals, 10 assists. Yeah. And you'd think it's going to come with Nugent Neal, but it's overdue, and fines are accumulating. So anyway, let's leave it there for this one. I got to write the player grades yet. It's going to take a while, but it's another post-mortem of a tight loss. Thanks very much for filling in, Kurt.
Happy to do so, Bruce. Have a great night.
Yeah. Thanks for listening, everyone. And in the meantime and in between times, this has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast.